Hey everyone, it is Friday and there are two very important exams coming up this Sunday. In 2 days, they are MP Set and JK PSC exams in English. So many of our students are writing it and they wanted me to do a special session. So we will cover a lot of topics, a lot of areas. And if you just watch this video once or twice, you should be able to answer them. So ready, guys? I will be asking questions, giving answers, asking questions, giving answers, like that. All right? Okay. There is a poem, She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways. And this is part of which group of poems? She dwelt among the untrodden ways. It is part of the Lucy poems of Wordsworth, which Lucy poems are written by Wordsworth when he lived in Germany. Okay. So, which work of T.S. Eliot has a classical chorus? The chorus is worried that something bad is going to happen. Which work? It is The Murder in the Cathedral. I'm asking you some simple questions first. Then we will go on to talk about difficult questions also. Everybody answer in the chat box. Which play by Arthur Miller treats the Salem witch trials of 1692? Tell me, guys. Which play by Arthur Miller deals with the Salem witch trials of 1692? It is indeed Arthur Miller's The Crucible. Arthur Miller's The Crucible is the correct answer. Tell me, who is the propounder of the term? Who discussed the term transcendental signified? Who discussed the term transcendental signified? What is the transcendental signified? It is the signified beyond all signifiers. We are all going towards the transcendental signified, but we'll never reach it. Who talked about it? It is indeed Jacques Derrida. Now, what will you do? Whatever I'm talking today, you should read extra. Okay? You should try to read extra because some of these will save you in the exam. Dear friends, which is the poem of John Keats modeled in the form of a dream narrative? Which poem of John Keats is like a dream narrative or a dream vision? It is The Fall of Hyperion, a dream. The Fall of Hyperion, a dream. Okay, that reminds me, who wrote The Allegory of Love, which is a very major critical book on various kinds of love, courtly love, etc. Who wrote The Allegory of Love? It is an author who wrote Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, it is C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis. Okay, of illness, of sleeping. Who wrote these essays? Of illness, of sleeping. It is by Montaigne, not Francis Bacon. Montaigne's essays are attempts. Okay, Montaigne's essays are attempts. Let me tell you one secret, guys. To pass any exam in English literature, one secret. Buy 3 or 4 major literary terms books in English. Study all of them thoroughly. It is the best way because there are so many things covered in literary history books. Even one M.H. Abrams will teach you so much, guys. It is very, very important. Okay. Madeline and Prospero are characters created by, they are lovers from 2 warring families, Madeline and Prospero. They are two lovers created by which writer? It is The Eve of Saint Agnes. Very good. The Eve of Saint Agnes. Fableau is a very vulgar, comic, satiric tale. Vulgar, comic, satiric tale. Which is the Fableau in Canterbury Tales, which talks about a carpenter who is cuckolded. A carpenter is cuckolded by his wife. It's a Fableau. It is the Miller's Tale. Okay? It is the Miller's Tale. Okay, let me ask you another question. About what did Coleridge say? It is essentially vital, even as all objects are essentially fixed and dead. He said about something. It dissolves, diffuses, and dissipates in order to recreate, or where this process is rendered impossible, it struggles to idealize and unify. What is he talking about? It is essentially vital. It struggles to idealize and unify. It is the secondary imagination, guys. The secondary imagination discussed in chapter 13 of Biographia Literaria. Very good, guys. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is originally a Greek word. In Greek, it is a term derived from archery, hyperbole. Do you know the meaning of hyperbole? It is overstatement. In Greek, the term means overshooting, shooting over. That is hyperbole in archery in Greek. Will you remember, guys? That is good, guys. Now tell me, in which poetry, in which poem of the Augustan age do you have a character called Sir Plume? Sir Plume. It is in The Rape of the Lock, 2nd edition, 1714 edition, because that is where he has elaborated it and he has brought in Rosicrucian philosophy, etc. Will you remember, guys? That is great. Now, tell me, Melincourt, Nightmare Abbey. These are novels by Melincourt, Nightmare Abbey. These are novels by Thomas Love Peacock. Okay? Thomas Love Peacock. In which year was Course in General Linguistics published? Course in General Linguistics is the book by Ferdinand de Saussure. In which year was it published? 1916. Okay, 1916. The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction is an essay by The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction is an essay by Walter Benjamin. He's a very important figure in the Frankfurt School. Frankfurt School, isn't it? Very good. Now, let me ask you another question. Allardyce Nicoll wrote a very famous book on what? Allardyce Nicoll wrote a very famous book on what? He wrote a book on drama, the history of drama. The history of drama. 2 unstressed syllables followed by a stressed syllable is called what? 2 unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable is called what? It is called anapest. It is called anapest. Okay, anapest. Let me ask you a question. In myth criticism, there is a very major writer who wrote The Burning Fountain. In myth criticism, who wrote the book The Burning Fountain? I will give you options. Is it Richard Chase, Philip Wheelwright, or Leslie Fiedler? Bolo. Richard Chase, Philip Wheelwright or Leslie Fiedler? Yes, yes, yes. It is Philip Wheelwright who wrote The Burning Fountain. Okay. True wit is nature to advantage dressed, what oft was thought but never so well expressed. Where do you find this line? True wit is nature to advantage dressed, what oft was thought but never so well expressed. Where do you find this line? It is in Essay on Criticism by Pope. Essay on Criticism. Did you get that, guys? Okay, everybody knows Well-Wrought Urn is written by Kalyani Vallath. Ye bolo, in which year was it published? Well-Wrought Urn by Kalyani Vallath, published in which year? It is a very, very important year for Indians. So, kaun sa year? 1947. 1947, the Well-Wrought Urn. Will you remember that? Tell me, among the new critics, contemporary of Kalyani Vallath, who wrote The World's Body? Who wrote The World's Body? It is by J.C. Ransom, guys. J.C. Ransom. You all know maybe The Rise of the Novel is a very major book. 1957 book, The Rise of the Novel. Do you know the author? It was published in the same year as The Anatomy of Criticism. The Rise of the Novel is by Ian Watt. W-A-T-T. Ian Watt. I am no Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. I am an attendant lord. Where is this from? I am no Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. Where is this from line? This line is from The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Okay, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Tell me, guys, you all know that John Keats wrote To Autumn. What kind of an ode is it? John Keats wrote To Autumn. Is it Pindaric ode? Is it Horatian ode? Or is it irregular ode? Ode to Autumn is a Horatian ode. John Keats's To Autumn is a Horatian ode. Will you remember, guys? Very good. Now, American Renaissance. From Emerson to Whitman. American Renaissance. From Emerson to Whitman, I think. I'm not sure about the subtitle. Who is the author? This book gave that age the name American Renaissance. American Renaissance. Who's the author? F.O. Mathiasson. F.O. Mathiasson. Okay. Age of sensibility. Okay. Age of sensibility. Which age is that? Is it the Romantic period? Is it the Restoration period? The age of Alexander Pope? The age of Dr. Johnson? 4 options. Age of sensibility. Is it the Romantic period, the Restoration period, the age of Alexander Pope, the age of Dr. Johnson? The age of sensibility is the age of Dr. Johnson. Okay, Dr. Johnson. Have you any idea? Epipsychidion. Okay, Epipsychidion talks about what kind of, what theme? Who is it by? Epipsychidion is a spiritual autobiography of Shelley, where he talks about love. Okay, love. And it's a spiritual autobiography. Next question to you guys. A linguistic guide to English poetry is written by a linguist in 1969. It was a path-breaking book. I have studied it also. A linguistic guide to English poetry, written by a linguist, published in 1969. Do you know the author? It is Jeffrey N. Leach. Okay, Jeffrey N. Leach. R.S. Crane, Elder Olson, Richard McKeown. These are part of which group of poets? R.S. Crane, Elder Olson, Richard McKeown. These are the Chicago school poets or the Neo-Aristotelians. What is peculiar about the point of view in Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler? What is peculiar about the point of view in Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler? Guys, it is a very amazing book, postmodern book, and it has second person point of view. Second person point of view, isn't it? Yes. Have you any idea who is associated with contrapuntal reading? Who discussed the term contrapuntal reading? It is contrapuntal reading is a term discussed by Edward Said. Am I boring you guys? Are you benefiting from this video, from this session? If you like these questions, please like the video. It will help all of us. Okay? Thank you. Now, guys, with which university was the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood associated? With which university was the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood associated? They were associated with Oxford. That is right, Oxford. Dear friends, do you know in which year the Genealogy of Morals was published? At least tell me who is the author. The Genealogy of Morals is by Friedrich Nietzsche, 1887. Nietzsche talked about will to power, Übermensch or Superman. Hannah, remember? Now, there is a poet in the Romantic period who talked about an incident called the Duchess of Richmond's ball on the eve of Waterloo. On the eve of the Waterloo battle, there is the Duchess of Richmond's ball. Which poet talked about it? He was an aristocratic poet who attended the ball. It is Lord Byron in Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Okay, Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Now I will give you a quotation from a Shakespearean play. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise. Once again, this royal throne of kings. What is being described here? England. Where is this from? Which play? It is from Richard II. Richard II. Christopher Wren was a very important figure in 18th century England. Who was he? Christopher Wren. Christopher Wren is an architect, okay, of the 18th century, a very important architect. Let me give you another quotation. Poetry is the record of the best and happiest moments of the happiest and best minds. Have you heard of that? Poetry is the record of the best and happiest moments of the happiest and best minds. Who said this? It is P.B. Shelley in a defense of poetry. P.B. Shelley. Okay, very important quote. And another question I want to ask you is, Veronian satire, okay, is a kind of satire. Veronian satire is very long and it attacks mental attitudes. Somebody called Veronian satire anatomy. Somebody said Veronian satire can be called anatomy. Who is that man? There is a clue in the question itself. It is Northrop Frye. Anatomy of Criticism is by Northrop Frye. Remember that, guys? Anatomy of Criticism is by Northrop Frye. Okay. Which is the Gothic short story by Henry James, narrated by a governess. A Gothic short story by Henry James. I'm sure you know it. It is The Turn of the Screw. Okay, The Turn of the Screw. Okay. Which of these works does not have a frame narrative? Which of these works does not have a frame narrative? The Arabian Nights. Okay. Decameron. Okay. Canterbury Tales. Okay. And Hamlet. I just made it up. It is Hamlet. I wanted to tell you there is a frame narrative in Arabian Nights. There is a frame narrative even in Mahabharata because it is Vedavyas who is narrating it. You know, the Ganapati story, that is the frame narrative. I was going to say Mahabharata. Then I thought, oh my God, Mahabharata has a frame narrative. Did you understand? That is important. They might ask you like that. Are you loving this session? Are you benefiting from it? I'm just giving you a lot of useful information. Okay. Who wrote the sonnet sequence, Modern Love? It was based on his own unhappy marriage. Modern Love. It is written by a novelist, and that is George Meredith. George Meredith. Did you understand, guys? Now, another question to you. Which novel is subtitled, which book is subtitled Feminism and the Subversion of Identity? It is Gender Trouble by Judith Butler. I wanted to ask you this question actually. Who wrote Excitable Speech? It is actually Judith Butler. Excitable Speech. Did you understand, guys? Shall I ask you another question now? That question is, how many lines are there in Rhyme Royal? How many lines are there in Rhyme Royal? There are 7 lines in Rhyme Royal, isn't it? 7 lines in Rhyme Royal. There is a novel, a very famous novel, where there is the Lestrygonian episode, where a man is traveling through a city and narrating in stream of consciousness. The Lestrygonian episode. There are many episodes in this novel. It is Ulysses by James Joyce. Ulysses by James Joyce. Will you remember? Who developed the concept of implied author? Who developed the concept of implied author? It is Wayne C. Booth. Wayne C. Booth, who wrote a manifesto of surrealism in 1924. Who wrote there? These are the avant-garde movements, important. Who wrote a manifesto of surrealism in 1924? It is the artist and filmmaker André Breton. André Breton. We have all heard of the word écriture. Écriture, what does it mean? Écriture means writing. Okay? Écriture means writing. L'écriture féminine, isn't it? That means women's writing, isn't it? Yes. Who is the propounder of the concept of reading against the grain? Reading against the grain. It is like deconstruction. It is Terry Eagleton. Okay, Terry Eagleton, who wrote A Dead Man in Deptford about Christopher Marlowe. A Dead Man in Deptford. It is Anthony Burgess who wrote A Dead Man in Deptford. Very good. Have you heard of the Divinity School Address? The Divinity School Address. It is a lecture. Who gave this lecture? Is it Swami Vivekananda? Is it Aurobindo? Tell me who. It is Emerson who wrote the Divinity School Lecture. All right. Did you understand? That is great. Now tell me, there is a novel by Thomas Mann where a man called Aschenbach is going to Venice and dying of cholera. He gets a vision of homosexual pleasure. Which is this novel I'm talking about? By Thomas Mann, Aschenbach. It is Death in Venice. Death in Venice. Will you remember, guys? Death in Venice is a very important novel by Thomas Mann. He also wrote The Magic Mountain, The Confessions of Felix Krull. All right. Another question to you. Which theorist developed the concept of uncanny? Which theorist developed the concept of uncanny? Uncanny. It is Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud. Okay. Daniel Deronda is a novel that shows a Jewish character. Who is the author? Jewish character is there in Daniel Deronda. Who is the author? It is George Eliot. George Eliot. Very good. Can you tell me who developed the concepts of sweetness and light into a critical principles? Into critical principles. Who developed sweetness and light into critical principles? It is Matthew Arnold, isn't it? Matthew Arnold. Very good. Now, another question to you. The form of rhyme where vowels rhyme but not the consonants is called what? The form of rhyme where vowels are rhyming but not the consonants. It is called assonance, isn't it? Assonance. John Fiske. John Fiske is associated with what? Cultural studies, television culture, popular culture. Okay, that is important. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked. This celebrated line appears in which poem? It has to be spoken in one breath. I saw the best lines of my generation, once again, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, without taking breath. It is the opening line of Howl by Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg. Okay, Howl. Now, what is the name of the boot? Boot means footwear. Worn by actors in Greek tragedies. The name of the footwear worn by actors in Greek tragedies. It is buskin. B-U-S-K-I-N. Isn't it? Buskin. That is great. Now, to the virgins to make much of time. Who wrote that line? To the virgins to make much of time. It is a Carpe Diem poem by Robert Herrick, isn't it? The Robert Herrick. There is a Victorian poem called The Hound of Heaven. Have you heard of this? The Hound of Heaven. Who's the author? It is Francis Thompson. I just asked you some difficult question. You may not know that, but that's okay. Francis Thompson. All right, dear friends. Now, deconstruction is based on the concept of destruction, propounded by which writer? Deconstruction is based on the concept of destruction, propounded by which writer? It is Martin Heidegger. Martin Heidegger. Okay, which is the worst novel by Robert Browning? Elizabeth Barrett Browning wrote Aurora Leigh. Which is the worst novel by Robert Browning, bolo? It is The Ring and the Book. The Ring and the Book. Now, another question is, in which Shakespearean play is there a character called Mercutio? Mercutio. It is in Romeo and Juliet, of course. Romeo's friend is Mercutio. Did you understand, everyone? Which is the most famous book by Richard Hooker, 17th century writer? Richard Hooker. It is Of the Laws of Ecclesiastical Polity. Of the Laws of Ecclesiastical Polity. Which Enlightenment philosopher said, reason must be our last judge and guide? Which Enlightenment philosopher said, reason must be our last judge and guide? It is John Locke. Are you tired, everybody? Because there is no PowerPoint, you might be tired, right? You will be thinking, oh, this is so difficult to remember. I will give you a trick, guys. Just watch the video again. Okay. Who is the radical feminist who wrote the book, The Lesbian Body? That they will not ask you, maybe, but still. Radical feminist, they have asked in net. It is Monique Wittig. Monique Wittig. Okay. Stressed followed by unstressed is called what? Stressed followed by unstressed. It is Trocky. Opposite of iambus Trocky. All right. Götterdämmerung is an opera that is the source of the wasteland. Götterdämmerung. Who wrote Götterdämmerung? Who made it? It is Richard Wagner. Okay, Richard Wagner. Let me ask you some Indian literature. The Dark Dancer is a partition novel. Dark Dancer is a partition novel. By whom? Balachandra Rajan. Lal Singh or Lalu is a character created by Lalu, Mulk Raj Anand. Isn't it? Mulk Raj Anand. Very good. Who coined the term hot and cold media? Who coined the term hot and cool media? It is Marshall McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan. Okay. Another question. Home to Harlem, Banana Bottom. Which Harlem Renaissance writer wrote this? Harlem Renaissance Caribbean American writer? It is Claude McKay. Claude McKay. Claude McKay. Okay. Who is the author? I'll ask you some simple questions now. Simple. Who wrote Leather Stocking Tales? James Fenimore Cooper wrote Leather Stocking Tales. Who wrote Archaeology of Knowledge? It is Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault wrote Archaeology of Knowledge. Isn't it? Who wrote the novel The Painted Veil? Painted Veil. It is Somerset Maugham. Who created a fictional place called Bhavani in British India? Who in his novels created a fictional place called Bhavani in British India? It is modeled on Jhansi. It is John Masters. John Masters. Okay. Now, Interpreter of Maladies is a book by Jhumpa Lahiri, isn't it? Jhumpa Lahiri. That is right. Who wrote Hali, the play? Arun Joshi wrote. G.V. Desani wrote Hali, a play. G.V. Desani wrote the play Hali. Which famous writer wrote a play in the form of a monologue by Manjusha? Boiled beans on toast, right? It is our Girish Karnad. He wrote, which are the plays by Girish Karnad? Taledanda, Yayati, Hayavadana, Nagamandla, Fire and the Rain, Dreams of Tipu Sultan, then Flowers, Wedding Album. Remember, na? These are all very important. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. This is a poem by Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound. What is the Elizabethan word for a newly coined term from another language? A newly coined term from another language. Inghorn terms. Inghorn terms. Okay. Who coined the term intertextuality? Intertextuality, Julia Kristeva. Julia or Julia Kristeva coined the term intertextuality. Who wrote The Laugh of the Medusa? Helene Sissou, S-I-X-O-U-S. Helene Sissou wrote The Laugh of the Medusa. Will you remember? That is right. Then, in which novel by Charles Dickens do you have a female narrator called Esther Summerson? Esther Summerson, female narrator, is in Bleak House. Bleak House. Did you understand? Then, Linguistics and Poetics is an essay by Linguistics and Poetics is an essay by Roman Jakobson. Roman Jakobson. That is right. Then, The Prison House of Language is written by which theorist? The Prison House of Language. It is by Frederick Jameson. Okay, Frederick Jameson. In which work by Milton is written to be performed at Ludlow Castle on Michaelmas night? Ludlow Castle on Michaelmas night. It is Comus the Mask. Comus the Mask. Okay, last question. Who defined poetry as an art of imitation? That is to say, a representing, counterfeiting, or figuring forth. To speak metaphorically, a speaking picture. Who defined poetry like that? An art of imitation. That is to say, a representing, counterfeiting, and figuring forth. To speak metaphorically, a speaking picture. It is, yes, Philip Sidney. Philip Sidney. I hope I did not bore you too much without the PPT. I just wanted to help all the people who are writing JK set, JK PSC exam, and also MP set. I hope others who are writing NET and other set exams also have benefited from this session. Kerala set result has come. Many of our students have passed. Congratulations. I am proud of you. From YouTube, from paid courses, from everywhere, people have passed. I am so terribly proud of you guys. Thank you for being such amazing students. Thank you for following our videos. Thank you for the support and love. Okay, bye-bye. See you. Tata. I will come back only on Monday. Okay, 2 days holiday. Bye. All the best, by the way, for the exams.